Hello and welcome to the Engerati studio live at the European Utility Week. My name is Sophia and today I'm joined by Margheri.
Buongiorno.
He's the Executive Vice President for Institutional Affairs at Edison. How are you, Marco?
Very well, thank you. The organization is fantastic and here
Brilliant.
It's even more lively than I thought.
Exactly, this is real live. So Marco, you chaired the session this morning on energy revolution. Can you tell us a bit about what was said and some key takeaway?
Of course. Actually, the session was named after the energy revolution. I don't want to become philosophical, but there is a number of definitions for it. Energy transition, the grand transition, the evolution, what have you. It's difficult to imagine an energy system that transitions by switching off one energy and switching on another. And that was the main topic today, with a strong focus on what's happening in the final market when we, as consumers, connect to the power grid. We had a first introduction on the general umbrella, the scenarios for market integrations in Europe, the scenarios for how do we combine the legacy systems, that is the historic security of energy supplies that we created over the decades with the new energies that are coming up. And there were a whole lot of contributions from utility, take EDP from Portugal or Enel as a global utility from my home country, Italy, but now in dozens of different countries. And both EDP and Enel contributed a lot by explaining how challenging but how full of opportunity it is that electricity will be the growing source of energy worldwide. It will go into transport, it will go into more and more digitalized and flexible applications. It will require a huge streams of investments in data hubs, in digital applications, as we said. So it was a very rich and dense discussion, basically trying to score the line from historical energy into this new word of a digitalized customer and digitalized applications. All in all, very interesting.
Okay, brilliant. So this energy revolution, or whatever we want to call it, why do you think our senior executive at utilities at the conference is so important? Why is this so important for them?
Well, let me exploit here the same quote that I used to open the session. It's a very famous quote, so most of our audience will have heard it countless times. And it was an answer that Sheikh Yamani, the founder of OPEC, famously gave to a journalist, questioning him on whether oil would have been sufficient for humanity.
Okay.
And he replied by saying that it's not the scarcity of oil that will lead us to the end of oil as the energy fuel of the world, as it was not the scarcity of stones that led us to the end of the stone era. If you take this into here, you realize that we have been moving from the narrative of peak oil to the narrative of peak demand. There will be less energy consumed in the future, at least in terms of business as usual scenarios. In reality, this has two different opportunities. The first opportunity is across the regions. Each region will have a development path of its own. If we take Europe or OECD countries, quite clearly the demand of energy will need to be curbed in terms of energy intensity if we are to cope with the global emission scenarios that we want to keep to preserve the Earth from climate change. When we go into non-OECD countries, we have to power development. And that requires a whole lot of energy that has to be made already more integrated, more sustainable, more decentralized, as, for example, is already happening on the ground in sub-Saharan Africa. So the grand energy transition really is the tipping point in the agenda of all senior executives all along the supply chain in energy, because it represents for some a change in business models. And if we come here to the European Utility Week, it represents for European power utilities an enormous basin of opportunities to go forward.
You were speaking about different countries, Europe and everything. How is Europe doing in this energy revolution compared to other global markets?
Let's say, as in every case, I would respond that many people, including myself, has mixed feelings on how we perform. On the downside, let's keep the positive side for the end. On the downside, Europe is still a highly regulated market, in some cases over-regulated, so innovation is not free-flowing into the European market. Fragmentation is still too high. We have 28 countries, but we don't have one single market, nor for gas, nor for power. The idea of the European copper plate, where electrons flow freely from Portugal to Finland, is yet to be delivered. And the third aspect is that, of course, the overlayering of policies, if we come to the utility scenarios in particular, the overlayering of policies has delivered a very complex mix to manage. As an example, Eurelectric, the Federation of European Electricity Industry Associations, has released a couple of weeks ago their report on how the electricity invoices across Europe are composed in terms of different shares. And it was striking to see that for the first time in the European history and across all 28 European markets, the market components, that is real electricity, accounts for about the same amount of taxes, levies and public policies, which is in one case 36 and one case 37%. So we have to basically clean up our bills of everything that is not related to delivering secure, competitive, sustainable energy in innovative manners. What are we doing well? We are definitely doing well first on having one of the points of references worldwide for transitioning our energy systems towards more sustainable energies. Renewable supply schemes, renewable support schemes have been the object of much criticism, but what is clear and safe and sound is that renewables now play a substantial part of our energy mix. You are based in the UK.
Yes.
April 9 this year was the first year ever after 1882 where no coal was used to produce energy in one day. And in May, the share of renewables was higher than that of coal. So this is a paramount development that has affected and impacted the whole of Europe. In my country, we ramped up to 8% solar power last year in energy consumption. So that's very big. I think this is the major achievement. Second major achievement, in Europe we do have an unparalleled capability in terms of technologies. From upstream technologies, from historical fuels. For example, in Italy we have world-class engineering capabilities, but this happens also elsewhere in Europe. Through to generation, think to the European nuclear industry, which is a world reference. Downstream to the digital management of the grid. My country, Italy, but a number of other European examples where first of a kind in rolling out smart meters, in trying to secure a new infrastructure for electric vehicles, etc., etc., etc. So that is definitely a plus.
We're getting there.
We're getting there, and if I look to this very exhibition and these very discussions, I have to say that the global European energy community is pretty much advanced, interconnected, and eager to grow when we look to new technologies, new ideas, bringing in new talents. That was a particularly interesting viewpoint that Engerati brought into the sessions. That one of the aspects of the grand energy transition or the energy revolution is to revolutionize the way that our organizations work.
Okay, so we have time for a last question. You are as well the president of the World Energy Council in Italy. Can you please tell us a little bit about this council?
Well, the World Energy Council is a very old organization, grouping roughly 100 countries all over the world, and ensuring that energy stays high in the policy debate, and that the policy debate is well informed of the long-term priorities of the energy systems. So we do group companies, academia, associations and stakeholders, institutions, and we promote the debate on the long-term strategies that the energy system need to have in order to grow and to foster competitiveness and economic growth. Just to give you an example, a few weeks ago, early October, the World Energy Congress, which is the event that every 3 years is organized globally by the World Energy Council. The next one is going to be in 2019 in Abu Dhabi. Early October, the World Energy Congress really set out a plan for the grand energy transition, identifying a number of core streams of work. Let me take one very specific. New threats and new opportunities. If we invest in digitalization, cybersecurity, for example, needs to be incorporated as one of the main features in the architecture of energy systems. It was not the case. Or resilience to big climate events. Or exactly managing the financial aspect of keeping together security of energy supplies and our legacy systems and bringing in new technologies and innovation. So the World Energy Council is a platform for global debate and a platform for multi-constituency debate. So we don't restrain to one player, but we put around the table all players that need to inform energy policies.
Perfect. Marco, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure. Please feel free to check out our Engerati YouTube channel to get more relevant content. Goodbye.